Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you. Guys, in this one we're going to be taking a look at more games with Adamancipator. So, it's funny, when I actually made my last Adamancipator video, I was like, okay, cool, I can make this video and then I'm done climbing for the day, that day being, the second day of the Master Duel ladder. And I was like, yeah, I've hit Diamond, that's where I wanted to get for the day, and I'm here now, I've got the footage for the video, I recorded that, I can be done. And I actually went to go play, other games, I've been playing Elden Ring a lot lately, and then as I was playing it, I just kept thinking about how good those Adamancipator games were, and, well, I decided to climb a little bit more, and yep, as you can see, I'm now up to Diamond 4. I did actually try to go for Diamond 3 a little bit, but then I fell back down to, back closer to the bottom of 4, and I was like, well, okay, you know what, I'll just be done. I said I was going to be done earlier today, and plus at that point I really started to feel my, mental fatigue start to kick in, and I guess that's kind of another piece of advice I can give you when it comes to, laddering and stuff, is that, if you feel yourself, if you have the thought, ooh, I'm tired, or, oh, maybe I should stop soon, then you should probably just stop after, that next game. Because trying to force yourself to play when you're not in a good mental state to, whether due to exhaustion or being distracted by something, really is just not going to yield good results. Forcing yourself to play in general. But this video isn't about general tips like that. This video is about specifically Adamancipator. So I get to show off a few of the games, my first games here in the new Diamond rank. And things are pretty intense up here, especially at this point in the season. Who knows, as the season pans out, exactly how much Platinum it's going to end up looking like. Because Platinum, and I kind of agreed with this, most people say that Platinum was still a bit casual when Plat 1 was the highest rank. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all, mind you, but I do tend to agree a little bit, that Platinum, yeah, they're, even early in the season, by the first week, you start to see a lot of, really off-meta decks, which, again, nothing wrong with that, but I'm more interested to see if we'll see, a lot of meta decks in Diamond, or if it'll end up being like Plat, where it very quickly becomes a blend of, off-meta and meta stuff, but yeah, like I said, I managed to get a few replays of some good Diamond games with Adamancipators. I'm probably going to do the rest of my climb up to Diamond 1 in the next couple of days with Trizu, so I wanted to get another Adamancipator video in before I did that, just to, get a bit of diversity here on the channel. I don't want to just, again, I mentioned this in the last video, but I didn't want to just show 5 days in a row of only Tri-Brigade Zodiac games, but alright, let's go ahead and go through the list here card by card. We've got Dragon Buster Destruction Sword here at the top, followed by 3 Maxx, Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion, 2 Doki Doki, 1 Prank-Kids Dropsies, 3 Adamancipator Seeker, 3 Adamancipator Researcher, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Gigantes, 3 Koa'ki Mirror Guardian, 1 Tackle Crusader, 3 Prank-Kids Rocksies, 3 Adamancipator Analyzer, 3 Koa'ki Mirror Supplier, 3 Block Dragon, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Lightning Storm, 2 Called by the Grave, and then finally 2 Forbidden Droplet. Down here in the extra deck, we've got Adamancipator Risen Raptite, Borreload Savage Dragon, Adamancipator Risen Dragite, Baronne de Fleur, Gallant Granite, Link Spider, Prank-Kids Meow Meow Moo, Crystron Halki Fibrax, Nightmare Phoenix, Prank-Kids Dodo Dodo Doo, IP Masquerena, Union Carrier, Nightmare Unicorn, Appaloosa Bow the Goddess, and Access Code Talker. So it's funny because, I've mentioned before that I kind of like to use Adamancipator in slightly more casual settings. I mean, slightly more. I'm still obviously, using it in, higher ranks and stuff. But the main point I'm trying to get at is that, I've often been not afraid, maybe is not the right word, but I've often been hesitant to climb with Adamancipator consistently at higher ranks on my way up to the top rank because I'm mostly just afraid of consistency issues. With Adamancipator being a combo deck and being somewhat easily disruptible, it just kind of scared me off a little bit, I guess, from laddering with it a lot at the higher ranks. But playing with it now, it really shows that, Adamancipator, it might be disruptible, but the deck's versatility allows you to oftentimes play through disruption, or at least more often than I gave credit for the deck for. So honestly, I might even use it a little bit more in days up to come before I switch over to Trizu. I don't know. Or maybe, I'll play with Trizu for a bit and then end up switching back to Adamancipator to climb. Who knows? But I feel with this season, I'm becoming a lot more comfortable with this deck. It's, I kind of have a tier list of not just how much I like all of the decks that I play, but how like comfortable I feel playing them, or what I consider my own expertise with each deck. And I've felt with this climb during Season 5 here at the beginning, the Adamancipator is now starting to rise up a bit more towards the Tri-Zoo level for me, where I'm actually starting to feel pretty comfortable playing this deck. So, yep, without further ado, let's go ahead and actually take a look at some games with Adamancipators here. Okay, so this first game we're going to be taking a look at is against Virtual World, which is actually, I've found in this climb to be one of the more annoying decks to play against. Like, I don't know, it's the way it's been the past 2 days climbing here in Season 5, I've found Virtual World to be just like a little even more annoying than Drytron sometimes. Because Virtual World has, like, I don't know, its choke points are a lot harder to pinpoint than a deck like Drytron, and it's a lot, I don't know about a lot more resilient, but it's a fairly resilient deck when it comes to playing through hand traps, like at least more than I give it credit for. You know, we're also playing stuff like Droplet and Imperm that are honestly not really very useful against Virtual World. I feel like that's one of its greatest strengths when it comes to playing through Disruption, is that you know, a lot of decks are packing Droplets and or Imperms in order to negate on-field effects, but again, Virtual World really is not susceptible to on-board effect negation as much as other decks, so yeah, unfortunately, opponent is going to have the first turn here, and they get off the dreaded VFD start, aka True King of all calamities. We do open the Droplet, but if this is Virtual Gate Choo-Choo, then, you know, we're going to have a lot of, we're going to have some trouble playing through that, so opponent's going to activate the True King's effect. I will respond with my Forbidden Droplet here, but of course, I mean, I think we actually did see them add the Choo-Choo now that I think about it, but you know, sure enough, they are going to have the Virtual World Gate Choo-Choo, which is, well, like I said, definitely not ideal here. We do, at the very least, you know, get to get rid of the True King as he gets destroyed by the Choo-Choo, but yeah, you know, I even moved into the battle phase before remembering, oh, right, you actually just can't battle either. Like, VFD is just, you know, the most unfun card in the world to play against. Not the most, I mean, Rongo's up there, and I'm kind of guilty of playing that, but anyway. No. So we do at the very least get to end with Koa'ki Guardian up on the board, plus Maxx in hand. So that's going to be what gives us the edge here. As my opponent goes to bring their Shen back, I'm definitely going to want to deny that with the Koa'ki Guardian, as having that big boss monster recur and also start to banish all my stuff is definitely not going to be conducive towards me winning the game. You know, it might be hard sometimes in the moment to decide whether or not to negate an effect like that. Like, oh, should I negate the Shen? Or even if I do negate it, will my opponent do something more dangerous? Like, should I keep the, you know, maybe I should just keep the Guardian up? That's a personal problem that I have sometimes, and that I used to have a lot, you know, when I, you know, especially when I was first getting into the game competitively, is getting choked up at decision points like that and trying to figure out, like, you know, okay, wait, should I do this negate now? Should I destroy this, or do this disruption now? But what I find is, like, you know, it's just really comes down to asking a simple question for yourself, like, if I do/don't do this, will I lose the game? Like, rather, am I much more likely to lose the game? And honestly, if the answer is yes in any capacity, it's usually a pretty good sign that you should do it there, so. Alright, so we're able to survive our opponent's turn, losing minimal, you know, we're taking minimal damage there. Opponent is going to Maxx right off the bat here. However, that kind of tells me more than anything else, honestly, that they probably are, you know, scared of me just going off and winning this turn. So normally I'm not one to take the Maxx challenge, but looking at my opponent's board, knowing what their deck is capable of, and looking at my hand, I know, like, I can actually go for a game here, and I can even go for an early Omni Negate in the form of this Baronne de Fleur. So I figure, you know, I'm just going to go for it at this point, right? Like, I'm just going to swoop in and, you know, take over the game here at this point, or try to take over the game. And I want the, you know, like I said, I've got the early Omni Negate for Nibiru. Like, when it comes to Maxx, Nibiru, and taking the Maxx challenge, it's really Nibiru is the main thing I'm concerned about. You know, if I'm ever in a position where my opponent has the Maxx, and I'm already considering taking the Maxx challenge, usually it's not something like a random Ash, or a Veiler, or an Imperm that I'm afraid of stopping me. It's really Nibiru. That's also, you know, tangentially the reason why I always suggest, like, hey, if you're playing Maxx as a 3-of in your deck, you should probably be playing at least one Nibiru, because it's really the main thing that's going to stop your opponent from winning the game if they decide to take the Maxx challenge. So, Yep, I've got the, Baron up, and then I, was starting to set up the access code there. Obviously, Baron plus access code being more than enough damage to OTK my opponent, and they recognized this and then gave us the W by conceding there. So, yeah, always cool to showcase these games. Again, a lot of people ask for these games of going second. I know a lot of people like to see us playing through difficult positions. It's really easy to concede to something like, VFD plus Shuchui. Just like automatically go and hit the surrender button. But it's like I always say, don't surrender, just play through it. You might draw the out. I mean, who knows? Your opponent might even disconnect. Like, I've won games that way. My opponent's in a completely winning scenario, and then they have a connection issue and they disconnect. So then I end up winning the game. So... you literally never know, especially in Master Duel, like on any online TCG, you literally never know exactly what's going to happen. But okay, I'm talking enough over this victory screen. Let's go and watch the next game. Okay, next game we're going to watch here against good old Drytron, or is against good old Drytron, rather, everyone's favorite. Everyone's favorite. But again, that is actually something I've said before in these past recent videos, like the past few days, but that's something I really like about this part of the season, is being able to showcase going against all of these, like, top level meta decks. So speaking of going second games, going against meta decks, we are going second here, and we do have the Maxx, but you never know if that's going to be enough, right? Fortunately here it is, but it's pretty easy for your opponent to have called by or the Ash, right, and just stop the Maxx in its tracks. But fortunately here we do have the Maxx, and this game really is going to be another showcase of why I don't think it's a good idea to go into the Maxx challenge, like generally speaking, because my opponent's definitely going to end up taking it here. And this is a good example of, oh shoot, I just had it in my head and now I can't think of it. When you feel like you're pot committed, there's like it's a fallacy, and there's a term for it, like it's called something. Sunk cost fallacy, that's what it is. I feel like with a lot of people, where they kind of showcase this bravado of like, I'll take the Maxx challenge, I am not afraid of it, I am, manly enough or whatever. I think that really comes more from a place more often than not of sunk cost fallacy. Of course, sunk cost fallacy being this idea that just because you've invested so much time or resources or energy into something, that you should continue to invest time, resources, and energy, even if you don't think it's going to pan out. So with Maxx, especially when you get the Maxx in response to like one of your effects that's already special summoning, so your opponent's already guaranteed a draw, it's really easy to think like, well, they've already gotten one draw, it's only going to be like 3 or 4 more and then I can finish my play. I'll just give them a bunch of draws. But 3 or 4 draws is a lot. Like a lot. I mean, even 2 draws is a lot. I don't like to give my opponent 2 draws like 90-95% of the time with Maxx, because at that point Maxx is pot of greed, and I think, we all know how ridiculous pot of greed is. Like, so it's really easy to think like, oh, it's only 3 to 4 draws and I can finish my play, but again, 3 to 4 cards, that's a lot of cards. So opponent is going to get the Herald out here, but and they did actually add the Orange Herald. Shoot, I actually meant to point that out, which was a very smart ad for them part way through the combo. They did manage to add an Orange Herald to their hand. Let's see, when was that? Because I do remember seeing that when I was playing this game. Oh my god, maybe they didn't. Maybe that was actually a different game I was thinking of. Or maybe I just was scrolling too fast when I buy it, but I thought they added an Orange Herald at one point to potentially counter a Nibiru, which if they did was smart, but I think that was actually a different game I was thinking of, so. But giving me so many draws, it was really it was inevitability that I was going to draw the out. In this case, one of our 2 droplets here. And sure enough, I'm able to droplet and then just go ahead and negate our opponent's board. Now I don't have to be worried about any of these monsters. I even negated the Beta Mu Fafnir, or the Mu Beta Fafnir rather, for good measure, just because I could. But even though it's obviously my opponent doesn't have a machine, and I don't have really spells and traps for them to negate with it anyway. But opponent doesn't concede right away, and we can see now it is because they actually have their own Nibiru. So I didn't get mine, but they have theirs. So that's probably one of the reasons that if I had to guess why they were so willing to play into the Maxx, is they probably figured like, oh, well, even if things go really badly and they have the out, I've still got a Nibiru, so I can just stop it before it gets real bad. But here's the other thing with Maxx, especially going as far into the Maxx challenge as they did, right? Like, it was always going to be an inevitability that I was going to, you know, very, very likely, extremely likely, just have the out here because I drew so many cards. Like, honestly, I don't know. I've been criticized, not really on the channel or anything, but in past, like, IRL, well, when I played the TCG, I've kind of been criticized by friends for being a bit too cautious when I played, but I tend to play not tend to play like always, but I generally tend to play assuming that they have the out, and thinking about what outs they could have, thinking about what wrecks me, but not from a standpoint of like being anxious about it, but more of a standpoint of being like, just trying to figure out to myself, okay, like, if my opponent has the absolute worst case scenario for me, do I still even have a chance? But of course, my main point here is that by doing the Maxx challenge and taking it, you kind of just end up making that risk a reality. So I guess that's my big PSA this video, is like, I'm not saying never take the Maxx challenge, but, you know, definitely be careful about when you take it. Make sure that you are actually in a position where you have a reasonable chance of fighting through your opponent's back row or winning the game on that turn. I mean, that other game that I showed just this video was a good example of when to go into Maxx, which is if you're going to win that turn and you have outs to something like a Nibiru or another hand trap that'll completely devastate your board. But, alright, I feel like I've kind of rambled on about this topic enough for now. Let's go ahead and watch the next duel. Okay, so this game here is going to be against a 60 card, some sort of IDS variant. IDS standing for Invoked Dogmatica Shadal. It's another game where we take the second turn, actually. I wonder, actually, how many of these games do we take the second turn? I didn't even think about that, but hopefully it's all of them. I don't think it is, but if it's all of them, we can actually just make this the, you know, a follow-up to our going second with Adamancipator video. Although, I don't know, the first three, maybe that's enough. Anyway, I'm just kind of speculating to myself at this point. So, you know, my opponent's going to go ahead and go into the, you know, Alistair and Magical Meltdown combo. I did actually think about doing the Maxx here, because I've played against Invoke decks before, and I know that typically if they open with the Alistair line, like, you know, Meltdown into Alistair into the Invocation, then obviously they're going to want to go for Macabre, and one of the main ways, in fact, the main way they go into Macabre on turn 1 is by sending the Alistair in order to summon the Artemis, and the Invocation banish the Artemis on board and Alistair engrave for a Macabre. So I did actually consider activating Maxx when my opponent normal summoned the Alistair. The main reason that I didn't is because another personal rule I tend to have about Maxx is that I don't like to activate mine unless I know for sure I'm going to get a draw off of it, or unless I know for sure that it's going to completely stop my opponent for the rest of the turn doing anything. So I ultimately decided not to, because I thought, well, maybe they might still activate the Invocation from hand, or if it's IDS, they might have some other graveyard setup to do, and they might not just go straight into the Artemis there. They don't always do it. So generally speaking, I tend to be a bit risk averse. I mean, you're probably, given my rant to that last game about Maxx and why I don't like playing into it, you can probably figure that, but that's why I didn't activate Maxx there. Obviously, I'm going to activate it in response to the Invocation, though, so I can get a draw off of that. Now, given that my opponents are going to go into Invoked Macabre, there is that to consider. We're going to have to play around that during our next turn. I'm not, like, super duper concerned about it, though, to be honest, because, I mean, look at our hand. Our hand's, like, pretty great here. Like, we've got tons of plays, like, tons of options for plays, and we even got the Block Dragon in hand, which we always like to see. So, it's our turn. We're going to draw for turn here, and we get another Analyzer. So, I figure the best way to play around Macabre is to first try to bait it out by using the Analyzer. I mean, we've got the Analyzers in hand anyway. We might as well try to activate the effect to special them. And, you know, the Macabre is only once per turn, so even if the Analyzer gets negated and banished, oh well, we got the one negation out of the way. But my other plan is, like, you know, if they don't negate, then I can just go straight into normal summoning Koa'ki and Rogue Guardian. And with that up, then that's going to kind of lock down their Macabre, and unless they want to lose it, they can't, you know, respond with it. So I try to bait with the Analyzer. They don't take it, which is actually fine with me, because then I can normal summon Guardian, and now I have plenty of plays. So I'll special summon Researcher and activate. I'm not going to negate the Researcher, or the Ash negating my Researcher with Guardian, obviously because Macabre is still a threat. And I do have another Excavate with the Analyzer anyway. And I actually hit a Doki Doki off of that Analyze. Well, both of them actually looks like it, and a Supplier, but definitely going to get the Doki Doki here. And then I can go ahead and pitch a Rocksies to search a Rocksies, go into the Prank-Kids line, and I mean, from here on, it's just like, it's pretty much over at this point. Actually, it's not 100% over. My opponent does have the back row, which they do reveal now to be Called by the Grave, which is not really going to impact me all that much. I was actually a bit scared of it here, but given that my opponent hadn't flipped it by this point in my comboing, I figured it probably wasn't going to be an issue, so... Alright, here we go into the Koa'ki Fibrax. Gonna have to go into that since I don't have the Prank-Kids, the full Prank-Kids line into what it'll do as the Called by, Banished, and Negated my Rocksies. But it doesn't matter, our opponent's gonna give us the win at that point anyway. So, alright, that's 3 games in a row now where we go second and still win as Adamancipators. You know, Adamancipator, it's easy for me to think this too, like, oh, if you lose the coin flip, it's easy to kind of like, I always refer to mentally conceding, don't want to mentally concede, which is where you kind of give up in your head before you actually give up the game. And it's easy when you're playing Adamancipators to lose the coin flip and go second and be like, well, yes, I lose, but it definitely doesn't always have to be the case. But let's go and take a look at the next game here. Okay, this next game is against Konami themselves. I mean, I don't know if it's actually them, but the account was named Konami, so one can dream, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. Another game where we're going second. Wow, we'll have to see it. I actually forgot there were this many going second. I knew there was the first 2 at the very least, but as you can see, we're playing against the mirror match here, and our opponent is playing the Miracle Rupture build. Which, you know, I don't tend to like myself, but I will admit that one of the strengths of the Miracle Rupture build is being able to Miracle Rupture for Revival Golem like this, and do that as like a basically free extender that doesn't require any kind of like setup. Like, I will say that is the weakness of Koa'ki or Supplier as an extender. Supplier is an extremely good extender, but it does have the prerequisite of having a rock having to get sent from the field to the graveyard in order to be able to summon itself, so that can definitely be a bit of a downside sometimes. But fortunately, my opponent just doesn't really have that many plays here. I mean, you can see that they're going to have to go into Union Carrier to equip Block Dragon in order to enable plays with the, searching the Block Dragon. Always nice for me to see that. I've known from being on that side of the game before that if you have to Union Carrier for Block Dragon, you're usually pretty desperate. I'm also pretty fortunate in that my opponent already had to use their Gigantes. Because that means they're not able to, get it in order to special it out here, and then special the Researcher and Seeker, and then keep going. So my opponent's actually going to be done here. They're not going to be able to keep comboing, even though they Union carried for Block Dragon and got the Block Dragon search. This is why you see some people running 2 Gigantes. This is the reason why you would want to run a second Gigantes for when you draw one. I mean, it's also actually a decent extender in its own right. I have thought about running a second Gigantes myself. I, however, find that it competes a little bit too much with Block Dragon. Excuse me. It competes a little bit too much with Block Dragon as far as eating up the resources in the graveyard. And situations like this, where the second Gigantes is necessary, are very, 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 very few and far between. It is something to note, definitely, which is why I wanted to pause the video and talk about it here. But ultimately, I don't really think it's something worth playing specifically for this reason. So. But I mean, again, to be fair, our opponent does have to end their turn here because they can't, continue their comboing because they can't get a rock out, so. Now we get to go ahead and summon Rocksies and go into our own line. My opponent's going to try to activate IP Masquerade to, Vampire Unicorn and spin my Rocksies back, prevent me from doing anything. But we've got the Droplet here, sending the Block Dragon, because of course it doesn't really matter whether that's in hand or grave as far as summoning it goes. So we can just go ahead and negate the IP Masquerade and be done with it. I'm going to try to activate the Rocksies effect here, but my opponent's got an Ash for it, which is definitely really annoying, but, worse things could happen. But the main thing that's actually annoying about it is that it leaves me with not quite enough rocks, or earths rather, in order to be able to summon the Block Dragon. I did actually kind of consider running the Meow Meow Moo into the Union Carrier in order to be able to summon Block Dragon, but I wasn't going to be able to do it really any kind of a follow-up with the Block Dragon, so ultimately I decided to just take out the IP Masquerena, as that posed more threat as far as going into plays anyway. So opponent activates Analyzer. I do have the other Droplet here in order to attempt to stop that. However, unfortunately for me, my opponent's also got the Excavator, or the Excavator. They're all Excavators, but the Researcher here, I should say. So opponent's kind of wombo comboing a bit now as they hit a Doki Doki and are able to, go ahead and get a Rocksies out for that. However, I do still have this Nibiru, which is one of the main reasons. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have really probably conceded at that point anyway, but not at least until I saw my next draw or was certain I was about to lose. But If I did not have the Nibiru there, that would have probably been just a concede at that point. Opponent is going to get the Block Dragon back once more, and then leak away for the Link Spider. But I'm not super... Well, and I'm not gonna lie, I am actually a little concerned at this point, because it's always scary when you Nibiru and you think, oh, they're done, I've answered the board now. The comboing has finished, and then... Oh, excuse me. Ooh, this video. This video's taking the wind out of me, but yeah, nope, sure enough, our opponent proves us wrong in that regard and manages to battle and do a good amount of damage, as well as answering our Nibiru itself. Fortunately for me, though, they just end on the Unicorn and the Block Dragon. And I'm able to get my own Block Dragon back here. Just barely. I have to use the Doki Doki from hand, but thank God I just drew anything that could be used as some kind of material. That's all I needed to go into my own IP Masquerade here, and more importantly, get my Block Dragon Surges. You know, it's kind of funny. This game really does kind of highlight... I mean, not that you need any one particular Adamancipator game to highlight it, but this mirror match really does highlight just how much Block Dragon enables. Block Dragon is such an absurd card. I mean, again, not that you need me to tell you that, but the fact that this thing can be summoned from hand or grave by its condition, it's not once per turn. It gets a total of... You know, it lets you search up to 3 things at once. And then it's also got the, you know, effect that protects your rock monsters from being destroyed except by battle on top of that. Like, I don't know what they were smoking when they made Block Dragon. I mean, they get the Block Dragon predated Adamancipators, but I don't think it was by that much. I don't know, even someone like me who really genuinely loves this deck can honestly freely admit that, yeah, Block Dragon's a stupid card that honestly should have got hit in some capacity. Did it need to get banned? I've talked about this before where, I don't know, I'm pretty biased on the topic myself, and I don't think it does, but it's hard for me to ruin my personal bias. I will freely admit that, you know. But, yep. Because our opponents, even though they were able to play through Nibiru, they weren't able to end on any negations, that of course being the most important thing here, I'm able to go ahead and extend my Block Dragon plus Dropsies. I mean, this is kind of an example of how abusive Block Dragon can be. Like, this whole combo line of getting 8k damage here with the access code, plus the Borreload, which also has an Omni negate, mind you, that all came from Dropsies plus Block Dragon. Like, that's so absurd. That's so ridiculous. Yeah, like I said, I mean, even I, as an Adamancipator lover, can admit that. Okay, let's go ahead and look at... We've got one more game from these Diamond rank games to look at here. Let's take a look. How many times can I say looking around, good lord. Alrighty, last game of the video here is going to be against Thunder Dragons, which I've actually been seeing... Well, it's funny, I don't know if I'm seeing people in general use the deck more, or if it's maybe one certain person who's using Thunder Dragons, because I've noticed, you know, here early on in this season, when there's not as many people up at the part of the ladder I am right now, you do kind of tend to get matched against the same people a lot. Like, in the past 2 days, I'll see names that I recognize, and I'm like, oh, it's this person, they're playing this deck, and then I'm right, because, you know, obviously I've played against them. I've noticed it especially when, you know, you, like, if you surrender or just in general end a game and then immediately queue back in, like, right away, and your opponent does the same, you're very, very, very likely to get matched up against each other. Again, at this point in the rank, you know, when there's, or at this specific part in the ladder where there's not quite as many people, but, anyway, my opponent is comboing off here quite a bit with Thunder Dragons, and they were able to stop our Maxx, which is always pretty annoying. Opponent's going to have access to not only the Colossus, but the Titan here as well. Definitely pretty annoying, especially the Colossus, although Colossus doesn't actually hurt Adamancipator as much as you think it might. Like, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, Block Dragon Search is so important, Colossus is really good against Adamancipator. But Block Dragon is really just about the only thing that does adding from deck to hand that doesn't involve drawing. The Excavates obviously don't involve your hand at all, so the Colossus can't really negate, like, do anything about those. But yeah, so it's funny. You can carry kind of the same fears from one deck over the others. Like, when I see Colossus, I still kind of, like, my subconscious reverts to the Tri-Zoo mentality of, like, oh, that card's really scary because it stops, like, pretty much all my combos unless I have a Zodiac, where it's kind of like the inverse here, where it's like, oh, wait, that actually doesn't do anything to me as long as I don't use Block Dragon, so... But nevertheless, here I am able to deal with the... I'm actually able to deal with this Colossus in multiple ways, not just the Tackle Crusader. This Dragite's going to be another way I attempt to use here. But I can flip the Colossus down with the Tackle Crusader as well. So my opponent does have the Thunder Dragon Matrix, which when used in conjunction with the Titan's effect to destroy a card whenever a Thunder Dragon's effect is activated, or a Thunder Effect Monster's effect is activated. Basically, it makes any quick effect Thunder Dragon monster into like a hand trap. So, however, that is not going to be enough to stop me here, as I'm going to still be able to go into Nightmare Unicorn, put back the Thunder Dragon Titan. Definitely want to shuffle it back in the deck because it's got an effect that can keep itself from being destroyed by card effects by banishing any 2 cards in the graveyard. Unlike Colossus, which only requires you to banish 1 Thunder from graveyard. Don't want to get those 2 conditions confused, or I think they both have the same one. I've definitely made that mistake before, but yeah, I mean, here you can see we've pretty much got game in the bag here. Like, we've already Unicorn to put back one of their things. We can easily go into Access Code Talker. And the fact that we have Researcher plus Seeker, and now we've hit Excavates, and we still have a Gigantes, like, getting 8,000 damage is going to be cakewalk here. Especially because, again, 5,300 of that is going to come from the Access Code Talker we end up making anyway. But we even managed to hit 2 Guardians off of the Excavates, so, if all else fails, if both cards in my opponent's hand are more hand traps, we have the 2 negates for him as well. So, not that, of course, we would, end up needing quite that many negates, but yeah, okay, there we go. The opponent gets in the concede there right at the end. So, oh shoot, did we go second this game? I forgot to look. Okay, the log is still up. Let me, turn 1, yeah, our opponent got the first turn there. Wow, so that was 5 games in a row where we went second as Adamancipator in Diamond and still managed to win. I mean, there were a couple of quick wins and losses, but these are for the most part my games from Diamond 5 up to Diamond 4, so that's really cool actually to see that kind of represented. Like, it's given, even making this video has given me a fresh perspective on my own games here. So, alright, cool, let's go ahead and move on to the outro. Alrighty guys, thank you as always for watching. Yeah, I really hope that this video was helpful to you guys. I've wanted to make a general going second video for quite a while now. It's just a matter of curating a bunch of games with a variety of decks going second against other decks. So, Adamancipator, though, is one of those decks that I really wanted to showcase going second games because, like I said before, this is very much like people think of this as, and it is a first turn deck. Like, I really, really, really want to go first with this deck in order to be able to establish your board of, 5, sometimes even 6 negates. But really, the most important thing, as even from winning the coin flip aside, is just making sure that you have the right mentality to look for plays and not immediately mentally concede, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, it's easy to be playing a going first deck like Adamancipators and have to go second a lot and be like, oh my god, this is so, every time you lose a coin flip, it's like, well, there's another game I lose. Like, I catch myself leaning in those mentalities sometimes, but, by being proactive in fighting that mentality and making sure we don't fall into it, that's really going to be a nice improvement to our play in general. So, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I really appreciate you guys watching to the end here. I'm especially appreciative if you are, commenting and subscribing. Don't feel like you have to do those things. Of course, I don't want to pressure you into that. Really just viewing and being along with my Master Duel journey is far more than enough for me. But yeah, I hope you Adamancipator fans enjoyed this one in particular. Like I said, I was glad I'm able to show these going second games. And as soon as I started that sentence, I was like, alright, it's time to end the video. So, without further ado, this is Xlex, signing out. And I hope you have a fantastic day.